President Trump's Christmas Day message, the government shutdown, he says, is going to last until Congress meets his demand to fund a border wall or else. Ylan joins us this morning from Washington. Ylan.
Well, good morning, Andrew. The president made those comments during some talks with reporters in the Oval Office after he made calls to members of the military. And he also had a sort of last-minute stocking stuffer for both the Treasury Secretary and the Fed chairman. He told reporters that both of the men have his full support.
When will the government reopen? Secretary Mnuchin?
Yes, I do. Very talented guy, very smart person.
What about the Fed chair? Who's the Fed chair?
Well, we'll see. They're raising interest rates too fast. That's my opinion, but I certainly have confidence.
Now, President Trump also acknowledged that the Fed is raising rates because the economy is strong. He suggested that that's some sort of form of, quote, safety. Now, the president has been holed up inside the White House amid the government shutdown. He is frustrated that he's not down in Florida with his family. He is mad about the market sell-off. He doesn't like the stalemate that we've been seeing over government funding. The latest statement that we've gotten from the Democrats attack the president on both of those fronts. Here's what they put out heading into Christmas. They said that President Trump is plunging the country into chaos, the stock market is tanking, and the president is waging a personal war on the Federal Reserve. It went on to say that the president wanted the shutdown, but he seems not to know how to get himself out of it. Now, Trump may have opened the door to compromise during those comments in the Oval Office by suggesting that a border wall is the same thing as a border fence. But guys, that is something that will need to be hashed out once lawmakers get back to Washington tomorrow. Back over to you.
Go. A couple things. Is there any chance that there's some kind of compromise that could potentially be reached? Do you see anything on the horizon at the moment?
I think that eventually a compromise will have to be reached, but the question is, how long is it going to take to get there? I don't think at this point that we're going to see anything before Congress reconvenes on January 3rd. By that point, Democrats will be able to pass something in order to get the government reopened, whether it's just a short-term CR. I think it's
so
very likely
they could doesn't really have to be reached. I mean, maybe in the long term it has to be reached.
Well, I mean, it still needs to pass the Senate, right? And so you'll need Republicans and Democrats to do that, and the president will still need to sign it. So I think one of the big questions here is, will Trump be willing to use his veto power if this House and the Senate pass, let's say, a no-strings-attached, a clean spending bill that doesn't include money for the border wall? Does President Trump take out the veto pen?
And he's saying he will, right?
At this point, he is saying that he will, but perhaps he might be convinced that a border fence is the same thing as a border wall, as you saw. Perhaps he'd be willing to accept less money for a border wall, coming down from that $5 billion that the House had initially put into the spending bill. So all of those factors are potential negotiating and leverage points in these discussions.
Ylan, clearly a vote of confidence for Secretary Mnuchin in terms of the public comments. Were there any other reports of something in a different tone behind the scenes?
Yeah, there were some news reports out after the markets tanked on Christmas Eve that the president is unhappy with Mnuchin, that he's skating on thin ice. But at least for the moment, expressing public confidence in the Treasury Secretary. There was also an interesting report, I believe it was in The Atlantic, that sort of suggested that that statement that Mnuchin put out about his call to the bank CEOs, that was really directed not at the public, but perhaps at President Trump, trying to show the president that he is on top of this. He is doing his best to calm the markets and assure them that all is fine. Again, we'll have to see how that relationship develops and how the possible volatility going forward in the new year could
Do we know
that.
if there's been any fallout, though, from the calls that Mnuchin made to the CEOs? I mean, clearly fallout in the markets, no question. But in terms of any kind of fallout pushback from the president, or do we know if the president ultimately directed him to do that?
We don't know. What we do know, what Sarah Eisen has reported, is that the president dictated a tweet to the Treasury Secretary in order to assure investors, assure the public that he does not intend to fire Jay Powell, that was a direct quote from President Trump, according to Sarah's reporting, but so far have not heard anything beyond the president's public statements that, as of now, he has full confidence in Mnuchin.